What will President Trump mean for the legalization of cannabis in the United States? Is it now a done deal? Is the future of weed in America glorious? Or will President Trump start the new weed wars, taking federal agents, crossing the heartland, and invading Colorado, California, and all the way up to Alaska? Or is the answer still, we do not know? Well, let's talk about it, because
this is a huge, huge issue.
So let's start from the top, quite literally, because at a worldwide level, cannabis is basically illegal. Any member of the United Nations has to have made weed illegal. That's thanks to the US, who pushed for it in the 1930s. So in the US, weed is illegal at a federal level. But all these different states have now legalized marijuana. But more and more states are now legalizing cannabis for recreational use. So that means that at a federal level it's still illegal, but at the state level it's legal. What would literally need to happen in order to enforce the law is to take federal agents, take them to recreational cannabis states, and just basically lay down
law and order.
Well, is that something that he's gonna do? Well, let's listen to what he said on the campaign trail.
You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them. But it really helps them. But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state.
Okay, so that's a great campaign promise for marijuana. So what happened to the I in the
marijuana?
Good question.
So it's good news. There's a decent chance that nothing might happen. The weird thing is that his pick for Attorney General, the person who actually would have to enforce these laws, is a man called Jeff Sessions. But Jeff Sessions really doesn't like legalized cannabis at all.
I can't tell you how concerning it is for me emotionally and personally to see the possibility that we would reverse the progress that we've made.
And almost a year ago, he said it's the president's duty to do something about this.
I believe the president really needs to reassert some leadership on this. I think it's really serious.
So since the election, that has basically been all we had to go on. It was Trump's campaign promise and old remarks by Jeff Sessions that were, pretty outlandish about weed.
This drug is dangerous. You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. And trying to send that message with clarity that good people don't smoke marijuana.
Okay, so good people don't smoke marijuana. Good people is A. If A, then not B. Good people don't smoke marijuana. If you are a good person and then you smoke marijuana, that disqualifies you from being a good person. Am I now a bad person? Are you? Anyway, what I'm saying is I think a legalized system actually for the first time says it's okay for mommy and daddy to do it, but it's not okay for young little Timmy to do it.
Lives will be impacted, families will be broken up, children will be damaged because of the difficulties their parents have, and people may be psychologically impacted the rest of their lives.
Just give me a sec. I will talk about the future of the Trump presidency, but I do think it's good to get away with old misconceptions. Jeff Sessions' concerns and mine are exactly the same, but I just focus on the people whose doors are being busted down, people are being thrown in jail for a little bit of weed, entrepreneurs who are completely criminalized, a stigmatized subculture of in the population. I think it's all these concerns are totally valid, but have nothing to do with if something is legal or illegal, because cannabis use exists. I'm sorry, Mr. Sessions, but that it just exists. And at a certain point, we just have to see in a pragmatic way how we can best, reduce harm in a way. That's basically it. So let's not fight a war against it. Let's work with the people who actually smoke it to see how they can do it, while keeping some checks and balances in place so that kids don't start too young and that there's no black money involved and that everything's done safely in the most healthy way. Now, back to the future.
I think medical should happen, right? Don't we agree? And then I really believe you should leave it up to the states.
Well, it's Jeff Sessions again who will have to act on this promise. Well, this week we've had hearings for Mr. Sessions, and we finally know what his answer is to the question, will he enforce these federal laws that prohibit marijuana?
Well, I won't commit to never enforcing federal law, Senator Leahy, but absolutely it's a problem of resources for the federal government.
Well, welcome to politics. A year ago, he was just basically playing to his base, and now he suddenly has to adhere to whatever promises Donald Trump made.
Using good judgment about how to handle these cases will be a responsibility of mine. I know it won't be an easy decision, but I will try to do my duty in a fair and just way.
And was there anybody exerting some pressure on Mr. Sessions? Yeah, well, maybe future White House spokesperson Sean Spicer. We don't know him yet, but we will all know him soon.
Trump supports medicinal marijuana, and I fear that's in diametric opposition to Senator Sessions, who said that he wants to take a much harder prosecutorial line against
Right. I just want to make sure everybody understands, when you come into a Trump administration, it's the Trump agenda that you are implementing, not your own. And I think that Senator Sessions is well aware of that.
Okay. All right.
So that brings us to the point that we can maybe start answering this question about what a Trump presidency will mean for marijuana, cannabis policy. I think that since Donald Trump made these promises, people will hold him accountable for it. And I also think that it's just really bad politics to now suddenly use force to reverse this. On the other hand, it's very easy to say like, oh, it's now legal and everything's fine. In the long arc that is stopping the drug war, I think it's really good if there's people at the wheel who actually support the central idea that that drugs can be fun and unhealthy at the same time, that therefore we need to regulate them well so that we don't punish people for how they want to live their lives. But on the other hand, we also protect people from certain harms because they just have a lack of education or a lack of knowledge. What should replace the drug war is a much more sensible system. And Jeff Sessions himself hasn't showed to me that he has like a decent understanding of what a regulated system would look like. On the other hand, Trump hasn't really talked about this topic too much. It doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna, everything's going to shits, but I think that it's still necessary to be vigilant. And in the spirit of cooperation and world peace, do you want to see that Jeff Sessions has a heart?
We know your heart. We know what kind of person you are. You're a good and decent and honorable man. You've got an outstanding record that you should be proud of.
I thought that was cute. And besides, Jeff Sessions actually sponsored a bill to lower punishments for crack. But what it comes down to, I think, is that this issue isn't done at all. I mean, for whatever I know, you live in a state where cannabis is not regulated yet. Maybe you do live in a state and there's still things that aren't working the way they should be. There's still a lot that needs to happen. And I don't know, with a president who constantly yells,
Law and order.
I don't know how we're going to square these things. What I do know is that if anything happens on this topic, I will make a video about it and I will try to do it as best as I can because I think it's too important indeed to just do it shortly and quickly. Please subscribe. If you don't know who I am a journalist here in Amsterdam who writes about drug policy from a Dutch perspective. I think we have been a laboratory for drug policy and maybe for drug use as well for the past 20 or 30 years. And I think there's a lot of wise lessons that come from here that I could maybe tell to the United States, where I've lived for a while and I studied American history. So if you think that's interesting, please subscribe. I will have a lot of stories, not only about weed. And tell me what you think. Maybe you have some extra snippets of information. And if you want to know where I stand on Trump, maybe that's also good to know. I'm basically with Bernie on this one. There's a lot I find refreshing about Trump. There's a lot I find completely horrible about Trump, especially the fact that he's inviting the entire fossil industry to now run an energy policy that is based on 20th century progress, not on 21st century progress. But anyway, next time we'll just speak about marijuana. Screw this.